Welcome to We Learn, Virtual Learning Network. This is session number 32 of the subject The Study of Society, and the chapter is Social Conflict. The topics to be covered are sociological concept of social conflict, elements of social conflict, functions and types of social conflict, and conflict as a condition of social change. Sociological concept of social conflict. The major concerns in sociology are two. The first one tends to focus on the nature of social order, social stability, and consensus. The second one deals with change, disorder, instability, and social conflict. Sociological perspectives fall broadly in the categories of function, that is consensus based, and conflict, which is primarily oriented to explain the elements of instability. Karl Marx was an important social thinker who systematically analyzed the phenomenon of social conflicts. Conflict theorists insist that conflict is a perennial feature of social life and that as a result, societies are in a state of constant change. So, conflict is a major reason behind which societies change, and when there is a constant change in societies take place. Perspective of economic determinism. Karl Marx's contribution to the area of social conflict is of immense importance. Social conflict, he believed, was the source of all social change. He saw conflict as a social relationship between two classes having opposing economic interests. So, social conflict was the source of all social change, and conflict is a relationship between two classes having opposing economic interests. The economic power of the haves gives them power in other spheres too, like political and social. The acquisition of power by one class is, according to Marx, always at the cost of the other class. The unequal distribution of power is sought to be resisted by the class of the have-nots. So, the economic power of the haves also gives them power in political and social spheres. Perspective of Max Weber. Max Weber too insisted that social conflict cannot be excluded from social life. He pointed out that conflict is a social relationship which has its own characteristics. The action within the relationship is oriented intentionally to carry out the will of the actors or groups against another actor or group. So, the action within the relationship is oriented intentionally to carry out the will of the actors or groups against another actors or groups. The effort to carry out one's will against the other stimulates a resistance from the other against this imposition. The following aspects of conflict relationship emerge. Conflict is a struggle over values. It may occur as a struggle over claims to status, power, and other scarce resources. At least two parties are involved in the conflict relationships to gain these desired values or things. The conflicting parties often aim to neutralize, injure, or eliminate their rivals. Conflicts can occur within groups or between groups. Conflicts have persisted through time and they are a perennial feature of social life. So conflicts are a very important feature of social life, and they have persisted over time to time. And they occur between groups, between two or between more than two groups. And conflicting parties aim to eliminate their rivals. Elements of social conflict. In social conflict, the focus is essentially on the opposition between two or more social categories. It may be a social group, which is a trade union, political party, professional organization, family. All situations of conflict involve the element of power. Conflict may involve hostile sentiments and attitudes as well. The interests that we focus upon in conflict could be of several kinds, that may be economic, social, political. The conflict relationship often involves two positions, for and against, the powerful and the powerless. The conflict interaction might take myriad courses. Positive consequences of conflict. First, by conflicting with another group, the social solidarity of a given group is increased within. There is a better coordination and a better structural arrangement inside the group. Secondly, conflict may bring together two hitherto unrelated groups in coalition, thereby increasing the scope of cooperative interaction. Thirdly, conflict may give rise to some uncharted areas of cooperation between parties. So conflict leads to cooperation within the party and coalition within the party to fight against the group which is opposing them. By conflicting with another group, the social solidarity is also formed within the group. Dysfunctions of conflict. Civil war may result in the emergence of one of the parts as an independent state. It is also possible that the conflicting groups may develop deep seated suspicions and animosities within the respective groups, which may prolong over time, resulting in continued instability of the group. It is only in extreme cases of complete annihilation of one group by the other that the seeds of conflict once sown may not sprout again. So, in extreme cases, that annihilation of one group, that the seeds of conflict once sown should not sprout again, and the conflict leads to deep-seated suspicions and animosities within the respective groups. Types of social conflict. Class conflicts, which are based on the system of stratification existing in a society. Political conflicts, which are based on the acquisition of and competition for political power. Communal or ethnic conflicts, which are mainly based on considerations of maintenance of the group. Factional conflicts, which occur among small group claiming position of power within small communities. And communal or ethnic conflicts is based on the consideration of the maintenance of the group. Class conflicts on the stratification of the classes. Class conflicts. All complex societies are characterized by the phenomenon of social stratification, which arranges all the members of the society into categories in a hierarchical manner with differing amounts of prestige, power, and rewards. Marx insisted that conflict between classes was the only source of radical change. The strength of Marx's class concept lies in that he sees two classes as being linked with each other in terms of an exploitative relationship. The haves, they have the economic power, they exploit the have-nots, and due to their economic power, and they also have power in political and social spheres. Political conflicts. Power is an important element in political conflicts. Social relationships can be organized. Social relationships can be organized around power is basically an important element in political conflicts, and social relationships can be organized around the acquisition and distribution of political power. So social relationships are also organized around the distribution of political power and also the acquisition of political power. These spheres of human activity which constitute the political domain of a society. The major function of a political institution is the authoritative allocation of resources and benefits that are available in the society as a whole. In political conflict, the sociologists have identified three main groupings: the political party, the interest groups, and the pressure groups. The political party is an organization whose aim is to acquire power in order to govern. Interest groups articulate the interests of a particular section of a society. Interest groups and pressure groups act in the political arena, but they themselves do not want to govern. Interest groups and pressure groups, they do not want to govern, but they want to get their demands fulfilled, and they articulate their interests of whatever section to the government to fulfill their needs and wants. Communal or ethnic conflicts. Conflict exists between Sinhala speaking and Tamil speaking people in Sri Lanka and between Hindi speaking and non-Hindi speaking people in India. A communal relationship is one in which the interests of the interacting members are identical. The concept draws our attention to the binding force of a commonality of interests, beliefs, and sentiments. Ethnic groups refer to certain types of group membership which are based on national origin, religion, language, or region. An ethnic group that faces prejudice and discrimination at the hands of the dominant group is often called a minority. So an ethnic group which faces prejudice, discrimination, and also being left out at the hands of dominant group is called a minority. In a society where resources are scarce and where the democratic polity finds itself torn between the diversity of demands put on it by various sections of society, conflicts are likely to emerge. So in a society where resources are scarce, where there are a lot of demands, democratic polity itself finds torn between various sections of society, conflicts are likely to emerge. In America and in South Africa, skin color has been largely the basis upon which blacks have been assigned inferior status. Blacks in South Africa had been dispossessed of their resources and were victims of unfavorable discrimination, unequal treatment, violence, and segregation. Factional conflicts. Sociologists generally talk of factional conflicts in terms of struggles in small communities like the village communities. A faction is an informal but a clearly differentiated group of persons in a village which encompasses members from different sections within it. In the Indian context, the village communities are differentiated not only horizontally in terms of caste but also fragmented vertically across caste in the struggle for domination. So, factional conflicts are conflicts occurring in the small community, like a village community of various sections within it, for having domination or for having the access to power. Desire for power, domination, economic and political, and prestige may be the goals of a faction. Conflict is not centered on one issue, it may be found operating in many areas. Factional conflicts often take the form of violent physical conflicts as well. The feuds between eminent and powerful castes or families in Indian village continue over generations. Conflict as a condition of social change. In a society, social order is necessary, and order is the outcome of a complex interaction between force of interdependence, cooperation, conflict, alliance, and cleavages between people. So basically, social order is necessary, and order is the outcome of a complex interaction between forces of interdependence, of cooperation, and also conflict alliance. Sources of power are not available to everyone equally. Social conflict can be seen as the outcome of this uneven distribution of power only. Conflict as a condition in social change can be looked at from many angles. Conflicts may lead to consolidation of units. Wars between societies led to the development of new techniques of warfare. This phenomenon of social conflict is closely interlinked with the phenomenon of social change, social order, and social control. So, phenomenon of social conflict only leads to the phenomenon of social change, social order, social control, wherein individuals can be united with the help of social conflict within. They can feel united and they can be of use to each other, and also wherein it leads to social change. When any type of conflict happens, it leads to social change and it leads to social order and also social coordination between various groups. That's all we have for you in this session. That was focusing on social order, social conflicts, and also how conflicts take place and what are the different types of conflicts. So that's all. These are some of the questions. You have to do it yourself. Give an example of dysfunction of social conflict and what is a communal relationship. Thank you. Happy learning. We learning.